A very warm welcome to my 10th standard children. Hope you all find it home. Stay home, stay safe and study at home. In this video session, we are going to see Unit 17, Reproduction in Plants and Reproduction in Animals. In Reproduction in Plants, we are going to see the types of reproduction, vegetative reproduction, sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. In human reproduction system, the sexual reproduction will be takes place. We are going to see the male reproduction system, female reproduction system. So this topic is more important topic for our social and personal hygienic too. So let's move on to the video session.
Hello children, reproduction in plants and reproduction in animals. This lesson is very interesting how the reproduction takes place in plants as well as animal. In all the living organism cannot survive for an indefinite period on earth, isn't it? So all the living organisms have the ability to produce more of their own kind by the process is called reproduction. So it is a biology. So we are going to study about plants as well as animal, the learning objects in reproduction in plants. Vegetative, asexual and asexual reproduction. And parts of the flower and its function. In the part of the flower, we took a hibiscus flower. And types and the mode of pollination and their significance. Process of double fertilization. That is, the step involved in fertilization, embryo development, endosperm development and formation of seed. So these are the learning objects we are going to study in the plants. Learning objects in animals. End of the lesson, you can able to understand the learning objects of animals are sexual reproduction in human being, structure of testicular and ovarian cell, structural details of human sperm and ovum, to realize the events of menstruation cycle and fertilization, gaining the awareness of reproductive health and strategies, gain the knowledge on personal and social hygiene. Now, the reproductions takes place. I already told you without reproduction nothing is possible. So, in plants, what does mean by reproduction? The male and the female gametes contain the genetic material or gene present in the chromosome which transport the characteristic tracts in the next generation. So, in plants, reproduction takes place in the three types: vegetative, asexual and sexual reproduction. First, vegetative reproduction. In this type, new planets are formed from the vegetative, that is somatic cells, buds or organs of the plant. Vegetative parts of the plant, that is root, stem, leaf or bud, get detached from the parent body and grows on the independent daughter plant. And it has the meiotic division, no gametic fusion. That is, daughter plants are genetically similar to the parent plant. So, vegetative reproduction may takes place through leaf, stem, root, bulbs. Let's move on to the next section. First, vegetative reproduction takes place through the leaves. In bryophyte, small plants grow at the leaf of the notches. That is, notches means small end will be there. From that, small leaves will be grow. So, you can able to see the picture. Okay. The next one is vegetative reproduction in stem. So, in this we took an example as a strawberry plant. In strawberry, aerial weak stem touch the ground. So, you can able to see the picture. No, the first plant, the stem will be bended into the ground and give off the adventitious root and buds. When the connection with the parent plant is broke, the offspring becomes independent. After the few days later or a few months later, the parent plant will break the stem, so it will grow independently. So like this it continues. This is a vegetative reproduction by stem as well as leaf. In vegetative reproduction, root. It is a agaporous and a sweet potato. These two are used as a vegetative propagation. Next is bulbils. In some plants, a flower buds modified into globoids, which can called as a bulbils. When these falls on the ground, it will grow into the new plant. Example, agave. So these two are the examples of vegetative reproduction in root and vegetative reproduction in bulbils. Another types of vegetative reproduction. Till that we see in the vegetative reproduction takes place through leaf, stem, root and bulbils. Now we are going to see the fragmentation, fission and budding. The last one is regeneration. First is fragmentation. While seeing the picture itself, you can able to understand it will split into the two types, that is fragmentation. In the filament algae, breaking the filament into many fragments, it is called as a fragmentation. Each fragment having at least one cell give rise to the new filament of algae by cell division. So example is Pyrogora. The next one is fission. In this type, the parent cell divides into two daughter cells. Each cell develops into a new adult organism. Example is amoeba. So you can able to see the picture. The first one is a parent amoeba and elongated into the nucleus. That is, nucleus is elongated and splitted into a two after the last two daughter cell be splitted. Okay. So this type is called as a fission. Next one is budding. Formation of the daughter individual from a small projection. The bud raising on the parent body is called budding. Example is yeast. So you can able to see the first one is yeast cell, developing bud, a new bud is forming and chain of the buds is there. So this is called as a budding. The last one is regeneration. The ability of the last body parts of an individual organism to give rise to the whole new organism. Really, it is a miracle, isn't it? So when an organism lost the last parts of the body, but it can have the ability to grow a whole new organism, that is called as a regeneration. It always takes place in the cell. Example is Hydra and Planarina. So these two are the examples of the regeneration. You can able to see the picture. Every part is cutted off and the topmost part is developed into the new and the middle part is also developed into the new and the last part also is developed into the new organism. This type is called as a regeneration. So now we are going to see the asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, a production of offspring by the single parent without the formation or a fusion of gametes is called as asexual reproduction. This does not have any male or female, a single parent, that is called as asexual reproduction. It involves only with the meiotic cell division and meiosis does not occur. Offspring produced by asexual reproduction not only identical to the parent but also exist a copy of their parents. So asexual only occurs in spore formation. The most common methods of asexual reproduction is fungi as well as bacteria. During the spore formation, you can able to see the second picture, that is of spore formation structure is called as a sporangium. Develops from the fungi hypa. The nucleus divides several times within the sporangium and each nucleus with a small amount of cytoplasm develops into spore. So again the spores will be germinate into a new organism. So that is called as a asexual reproduction. Next one is sexual reproduction. We all know that two gametes are fused together. So in the first picture you will have a female gametes and the male gametes are fused together should form a zygote, that is called as a sexual reproduction. So in sexual reproduction, both the gametes to fuse to produce a offspring of their own kind. In such both sexes of male and female, sex organs are needed to produce the gametes. All of you have learnt flower is a reproductive organ of flowering plant. So now we are going to see the structure of flower. In the part of the typical flower we took as a hibiscus. The flower is modified into the shoot and limited growth carried a sexual reproduction. In this hibiscus flower, the male and the female sex organ is present in the same flower. So some important parts of the flowers are calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. In two outermost whorl, calyx and corolla are not essential or accessory whorls. They are not directly takes part in the reproduction. So androecium is a male reproductive part of the flower and gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the flower. So because of these both only the reproduction takes place directly. Androecium. It is a male part of the flower which I told you already. It is composed by stems. Each stems consists of the stalk. It is called as a filament. Each stamens consists of the stalk is called as a filament and the small bag-like structure is called as an anther. You can able to take one hibiscus flower also while come to this video session. So in that you can see the androecium, stamen, filament, anther. Small bag like structure it will be there, very small, minute. The pollen grains are produced in the anther within the pollen sac. The pollen grains are usually spherical in shape. It has a two-layered wall. The hard outer layer is called as a exine. It has prominent aperture called as a germ pore. In inner layer is called as a intine. The matured pollen grains contain two cells, that is vegetative, another one is generative cells. In vegetative cells contains a large nucleus. The generative cells divide meiotically to form two male gametes. Next one is gynoecium. It is the female part of the flower which is made up of carpels. That is three parts you have. Ovary. The downward part is called as a ovary. The middle part is a style. And the topmost region is stigma. And all the three parts is called as a gynoecium. It is a female part of the flower. Now we are going to see the structure of ovule. What is mean by ovule? So in female reproductive part we see ovary, isn't it? Inside the ovary we will have ovule. So we are going to see the detailed explanation of the ovule here. The main part of the ovule is a nucleus which is enclosed two integuments, leaving an opening is called as a micropyle. The ovule is attached to the ovary wall by the stalk known as a fungus chalza in the basal part. The embryo sacs contain the 7-cell and the 8th nuclei is located in the nucleus. 3 cells of the microprior end forms the egg apparatus and the 3 cells at the chalaza end are the antipodal cell. The remaining 2 nucleus are the polar nuclei. In egg apparatus, one egg is a egg cell, that is female gamete. The remaining 2 cells or sigrenites. In the process of sexual reproduction, ovulism important part is takes place to the next level. So, in process of sexual reproduction in flowering plants, two main important steps should be takes place. One is pollination. The word pollination you heard in from the 5th standard itself. What is mean by pollination? Transfers of pollen grains from anther to stigma. So anther we seen, isn't it? Stigma also we seen in the hibiscus flower. So the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to stigma of a flower is called as a pollination. So first one is reproduction of a sexual reproduction of a flower, which involves takes place in pollination. Second one is fertilization. These are the two steps are involved in the sexual reproduction. So here we are going to see the detailed explanation of pollination. In the right hand side I gave you the anther. The small bag-like structure is called as anther. This anther is transferring to the stigma. It is called as a pollination. Did you know why we are giving a more importance to the form pollination? Which results are fertilization. The formation of the fruit and the seed is the importance of the pollination. New varieties of the plants are formed through the combination of gene. In case of cross pollination will takes place. Yes, what is mean by cross pollination? It is one of the type of pollination. Yes, types of pollination. One is self-pollination, another one is cross-pollination. The self-pollination is autogamy. The other name is autogamy. The transfers of pollen grains from the anther to stigma. So from anther, it's a detailed discrimination is given in the picture. Same flower or another flower, but in the same plant. Okay, so that is called as a pollination. It's a very good example is hibiscus. So why self-pollination is very good or very bad? That is advantages and disadvantages of self-pollination. Self-pollination is possible in a bisexual flowers. It do not depend the agents of the pollination. No wastage of pollen grains, because within the flower itself it's making the pollination, so no wastage in the pollen grains. So three disadvantages are there in the self-pollination. Seeds are very less in numbers. Endosperm is very minute, so therefore seeds produce a weak plant. New varieties of plants cannot be produced at all. So these are the three disadvantages of the self-pollination. The next one is cross-pollination. The cross-pollination, the same transfers of pollen from the anther to a flower to the stigma of the flower on the another plant, not in the same plant. That is the only difference between self-pollination and the cross-pollination. Examples of the cross-pollinations are apples, grapes, plum, etc. So here also we will have the advantages as well as disadvantages of the cross-pollination. Advantages of the cross-pollination. Seeds are produced as a result of cross-pollination, develops and germinate, properly grown into a better plant. So more viable seeds are produced. The disadvantages of cross-pollinations are pollination may fail due to distance barrier, isn't it? More wastage of pollen grains. So it will transfer from one plant to another plant. The grains, that is pollen grains, will get damaged. It may introduce some unwanted characters. Flower depends on external agencies for pollination. So these are the disadvantages and advantages of the pollen grain. So Did you see the flower in the garden? Some insects and birds is also acts as a pollinating agent. Now we are going to see what is meant by pollinating agents. Agents of pollination. In order to bring the cross pollination, so agent will takes place only in the cross pollination. The pollen should be carried from one to another of a different plant. It takes place through the agencies like animal, insect, wind, water. This is known as an agent of cross pollination. Pollination by wind. Pollination within the help of wind is called as anemophily. This anemophilous flower produces an enormous amount of pollen grains. The pollen grains are small, smooth, dry and light in weight. Pollens of such plants are blown off at the distance more than 1000 kilometers. You can able to think it over 1000 kilometers. The stigmas are comparatively large, protruding and sometimes hairy to trap the pollen grains. So examples of the pollination by the wind is grasses and some cacti. The next one is pollination by insects. Pollination with the help of insects like honeybee. Flies are called as endophily. To attract the insects, these flowers are brightly colored, have smell and texture. The pollen grains are large in size. Exine is petal, piney, so they are adhered firmly to a sticky stigma. Approximately 80% of pollination done by the insects. So pollination is done in all the agents, but 80% of pollination is done by these insects like honeybee and flies. Pollination by water. So pollination with the help of water is called as a hydrophile. It takes place in aquatic plants. Pollen grains are produced in large numbers. Pollen grains float on surface of water till they land on the stigma of a female flowers. Example, hydrilla. Next, the pollination by animals. When pollination takes place with help of the animal, it is called as a zoophile. The flowers of such plants attract the animal by the bright color, size and scent. Sunbirds pollinates flowers of canna, geluda and squirrel pollinate the flower of silk cotton tree. So these are the pollination by animals. Process of fertilization. Till we seen pollination. After the pollinations took place, next process is fertilization. Pollen grain reach a right stigma and begin to germinate. Pollen grain forms a small tube-like structure is called as a pollen tube, which emerges through the germ pore. Pollen tube grow through the tissues of stigma style and which finally reaches the micropyle. Vegetative cell generates and generative cells divides to form two sperms or male gametes. The tip of the pollen tube bursts into two sperms enter into an embryo sac. One sperm fuse with the egg and forms a diploid zygote. Another sperm fuse with the secondary nucleus, that is triple fusion, form a primary endosperm nucleus, which is called as a triploid in nature. The two types of fusions takes place, that is triple fusions takes place in embryo sac. This process is called as a double fertilization. After the triple fusion, primary endosperm nucleus develops into a endosperm. Endosperms provide food to a developing embryo. Later, cygrinates and antipodal cells degenerate. So, significance of fertilization. Ovary to develop into the fruit. It helps the development of new characters form a two different individual. So, this is a fertilization takes place, the process of fertilization. Post-fertilization changes. Ovule develops into seed, isn't it? The integuments of ovule develop into the seed coat, the upper layer of the seed. The ovary enlarges and develops into the fruit. The fruit contains a future plant which develops into a seedling under the appropriate conditions. Reproduction in plants. We go through the reproduction in plants. What are the reproductions and takes place? Sexual, asexual and vegetative types and all. But in human, only the sexual reproduction takes place. The sexual reproduction in human beings. In human beings, the male and the female reproductive organ is different. New individual develops by fusion of gametes. In sexual reproduction involves a fusion of two haploid gametes, that is male and female, to form the haploid individual. The organs of the reproductive system is divided into the primary, secondary sex organ. The primary reproductive organ gonads and ovaries. The gonads, testes in male and ovaries in female. The axillary sense organ on male and female. So, male is vas deferens, epidermis, seminal vessel, prostagland and penis. The female, fallopian tubes, uterus, cervix and vagina. Secondary sex organs include the structure, process of ovulation, fusion of male and female gametes, division of fertilized egg, pregnancy, development of a fetus, childbirth. Male reproductive organ, that is a structure of testis. Testis is a reproductive gland in a male which have oval shaped. Each testis is covered with a layer of fibrous test tubes called a tunia ablina. Many septa from the layer divides testis into a pyramidal lobes. The process of spermatogenesis takes place in the semifebral tubules. Ctenocells are supporting cells and produce a nutrition to developing the sperms. So, Inlydic cells are a polyhedral in shape and lie between the semi-inferior tubules and secretes the testosterone which initiate the process of the spermatogenesis. So, this is a LS of human testis. Here comes a female reproductive organ is ovary. Ovaries are located in the either side of the lower abdomen, two almond shape, each lying near the lateral end of fallopian tube. Each ovary is compact structure consists of other cortex and inner medulla. The cortex is composed of network of connective tissue called stroma. Epithelial cells called a granulosa cell surround each ovum in an ovary together, forming the primary foci. So, number of primordial foci in newborn child baby ranges over 7 million. During the reproductive period, that is puberty, the number is around 60,000 to 70,000. During the woman's lifetime, she will only ovulate 300 to 400 of 1 to 2 million eggs she was initially born with. On the other, men will produce over 500 million sperms in her lifetime. So this is the LS of human ovary. Gametogenesis. The formation of the sperm in male and ovum in female is called as the gametogenesis. It involves the formation of spermatoes and the formation of ova. Gametes with the haploid cells are produced through the gametogenesis. So this is the gametogenesis. They will be asking question in 2 marks. Now we are going to see structure of sperm. That is structure of human sperm. In the topmost region you will have head, and the middle is a midpiece, and the last region is a tail. So threely it will divided. The head part is elongated with the formed condensation of nucleus. The anterior portion has cap-like structure is called as a acrosome. You can able to see that. It contains a enzyme that helps sperms to enter the ovum during fertilization. The short neck contains with the head and middle piece, which compress the centrolites, and the middle piece contains a mitochondria, which produce the energy to movement of the tail. It brings a sperm motility, which is essential for the fertilization. So only these are the structure of human sperm. Structure of human ovum. The matured ovum or egg is spherical in shape. The ovum is almost free of yolk. It contains a cytoplasm as well as nucleus. You can able to see in the picture, children. So it is surrounded into 3 membrane. Plasma is surrounded by inner thin and outer thick is corona radiata, and corona radiata is formed of fossili cells. The membrane forming the surface layer of the ovum is called a vitelline membrane. The fluid filled space between the zona pellucida is a surface of the egg. So this is the structure of human ovum. Pituitary. The reproductive system in both male and female becomes a functional. Increases of sex organ resulting is called as a pituitary. This phenomenon starts earlier in female than in males. So boys always attain the pituitary, it's 13 to 14, girls to 11 to 13. In male, onset of pituitary triggers by the secretion of the hormone estrogen in the testes. In female, secretion of the estrogen, postrogen from the ovary. The secretion of them both male and female hormones are under the control of pituitary gonadotrophins. So LH, and fossili stimulating hormone is FSH. The next important is menstruational cycle. So you can able to see this is a 2 sides almond like structure is a ovary. You will have left and a right ovary. The cycle event that takes place in rhythmic fashion during the reproduction period of one's life is called as a menstruation cycle. In female, it will start from 11 to 13, and which marks as a pituitary and called as a menarche. And it ceases around 48 to 50 of age. This stage is a menopause. The reproductive period is marked by the characteristic event repeated almost every month, that is 28 days with a minor variation. So you will have a menstruational cycle consists of the 4 phases. So menstruational cycle which have the 4 phases: menstrual or destructive phase, and the second one is a follicular or proliferative phase, ovulatory phase, luteal or secretory phase. These are the 4 phases in the menstruational cycle. So these phases show the simultaneous synchrony of event in both ovary and uterus. Changes in the ovary and the uterus induce a pituitary hormone, that is LH and FSH. Menstruation is a periodical phenomenon that continues from the puberty to menopause. This will happen if a released ovum is not fertilized by the egg. The lack of menstruation generally indicates pregnancy. Here we will have the table, that is event of menstruational cycle and the role of the hormones. Phase, days, changes in ovary, changes in uterus and hormonal changes. First, menstrual phase, that is 4 to 5 days, which is development of a primary fossils, breakdown of a uterus, endometrial lining leads to bleeding. In hormonal changes, decrease in a postrogen and estrogen. Follicular phase, that is 6th to 17th day. Primary fossil grow to become a fully matured Graphian fossil. Changes in uterus, endometrium regenerates through proliferation. Hormonal changes, FSH and estrogen increase. Ovulatory phase, that is 14th day. The Graphian follicle ruptures and release the ovum, that is egg. So it will increase the endometrial thickness. So hormonal changes, LH will be in the peak. So next one is luteal phase, that is 15th to 28th day. Empty-eyed Graphian follicles developed into the corpus luteum. Changes in uterus. Endometrium is prepared the inflammation if fertilization of egg takes place. If fertilization does not occur, the corpus luteum degenerates. Uterus wall ruptures, bleeding starts and unfertilized eggs is expelled. LH, FSH decreases, the corpus luteum produces postrogen, its level increases followed by the decline if menstruational bleeding occurs. After the fertilization takes place, how the fertilization will takes place after the fusion of a male and the female gametes. First, fertilization in human is internal and female genital tract. It's usually in a ampulla of fallopian tube. So, octaves live in about 24 hours when it's released from the fossili. The fertilization must take place within 24 hours. The sperm enters into ovum, fuses with it, resulting the formation of the zygote. The process is called as a fertilization and the zygote is called as a fertilized ovum. Cleavage and the formation of blastula. The first cleavage takes place about 30 hours after fertilization. The cleavage is a series of a rapid meiotic division of zygote to form many cell blastula, that is blastocyst, which comprises an outer layer of a smaller cells and inner layer of a larger cells. Implantation, that is fertilized egg which reaches the uterus and gets implanted in uterus. This process of blastocyst to the uterine wall, it's called as a implantation. The fertilized eggs becomes implanted is about 6 to 7 days after fertilization. Next one is gastrulation. Formation of the blastula into a gastrula in the formation of a primary germ layer, that is ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. By rearrangement of the cells is called as a gastrulation. It takes place a process of implantation. Normally, one egg matures in the ovary of each month. Ovulation is a rupture of follicle releasing the egg or ovum. Uterus prefers itself to receive the fertilized egg every month. Uterine lining becomes thick and spongy for inflammation for fertilized egg. If fertilization takes place, a corpus luteum continues to create the postrogen to maintain the thickness state of uterine wall and prevents the maturation of another follicle till the end of pregnancy. If fertilization does not occur, the corpus luteum degenerates, the egg disintegrates and uterine line slowly breaks, discharged as blood and mucus leading to menstrual events. After the fertilization and the makes into the gastrulation, it will move on to the organogenesis, formation of placenta, pregnancy and part nutrition, lactation. Organogenesis, it's established like ecto, meso and endoderm. The final phase of embryonic development. During the organogenesis, the various organs of fetus are established in different germ layer. Next is a process is formation of placenta. It's a disc-shaped structure in a uterine wall and temporary association with the development embryo. The cord containing the blood vessel which connects the placenta. The next one is pregnancy. This is the time period during the embryo attains the development of uterus. Normally, gestation period of human lasts about 280 days. During pregnancy, the uterus expands about 500 times of its normal size. That's why when a woman is giving a birth to the child is very precious and she is bearing a more pain in it. The next one is patrician, that is childbirth. It's the explosion of a young one from the mother's uterus at the end of pregnancy. Oxytocin is a posterior pituitary stimulates the uterine contractions, so which provides a force to expel the baby from the uterus, which causing the birth. Colostrum, it's a milk produced from the breast during the first 2 to 3 days after the childbirth is called as a colostrum. It contains a human substance and provides immunity to the newborn, which is very essential for the body. So this is very good to the child. The first secretion during the first few days after giving the birth to the child. So lactation is very important process. Milk production after the childbirth from the mammary gland of the mother is called as a lactation. The first fluid is released from the mammary gland after the childbirth, that is called as a colostrum. Milk production from the alveoli of mammary gland is stimulated by the prolactin secreted by the anterior pituitary. The ejection of the milk is stimulated by the posterior pituitary hormone oxytocin. Sometimes you will be noticed that the identical twins and non-identical twins, isn't it? So what does mean by identical twins? How it is possible? The ovary releases two eggs, each end fertilized by the different sperm that result into the non-identical twins, that is two eggs, two sperm. That is a non-identical twins, that is always called as a fraternal twins. You can able to see the picture. In identical twins, if a single egg is fertilized, then divides into two photius. That is, in single egg, two sperms get enter into it. That is called as a identical twins develop. Reproductive health. According to WHO, you all know very well what is meant by WHO, World Health Organization. In the World Health Organization, the reproductive health means to total well-being in all aspects of reproduction. Ability to reproduce or regulate fertility, women's ability to undergo pregnancy and face a childbirth, maternal and infant survival and well-being. So, several measures are taken by the government to protect the people's like a reproductive health. They are launching a national health programs also. They are launching the national health programs. One is family welfare program and second one a reproductive and child health care, that is RCH program. In family welfare program, so maternal and the child health care will be schemed, will be announced for that. Immunization of mother and infant as well as children. Nutritional supplement to a pregnant woman and children. Contribution with the health education to motivate the couple to accept a contributions method and to have a family planning norms, that is small family, which improve the economic status, living status and quality of the status. In reproductive and child health care, these are the services which includes our pregnancy and childbirth, postnatal care of mother as well as child, importance of the breastfeeding, prevention of reproductive tract infection and sexual transmitted diseases also there in this program. The next important topic is population explosion. Population explosion is a sudden and rapid increase in the size of population, especially human population, isn't it? India is a third most country which have a huge human population. Realizing the danger inheritance of a population growth, government has taken a several measures to check the population growth and introduce a family planning. India has been one of the first country into the world to launch the nationwide family planning program in 1952. Family planning is a way of living that is adopted voluntarily by the couples on the basis of knowledge and responsible decision to promote the health and the welfare of the family group. That is WHO, World Health Organization, has also stressed the importance of the family planning. The inverted red triangle, the right hand side you will have the symbol of family planning. In India, for family welfare, it was introduced. It sits displayed prominently at all the hospitals and primary health clinics and family welfare centers. The advice about the family planning is available of the free of cost. The simple displayed only with the slogan, small family, happy family. Contraception method. It is one of the best birth control measure. A number of techniques or methods have been developed to pregnant the pregnancies in women. The device used for the contraceptions are called as contraceptive devices. The common contraceptive methods used to prevent the pregnancy. There are four methods are here: barrier method, hormonal method, intrauterine devices, that is IUDs, and last one is surgical methods. In the barrier method, we will have the preventive measures are the two. One is condom, another one is digraph. In barrier methods, the method is prevent the sperm from the mating of ovum. So it will prevented by the barrier for a female reproductive tract. So first, condom, which prevents a deposition of the sperms in the vagina. Condoms are made with a thin rubber or a latex sheath. Condom also prevents against the sexual transmitted diseases like AIDS. The second one is cervical cap, that is digraph, and vaginal digraph fitting into the vagina or a cervical cap fitting over to the cervix. This prevents the entry of the sperm into the uterus. So both will prevent the entry of the sperm into the uterus. The next method is hormonal method. The hormonal preparation are the form of pills or tablets. These hormone stops, that is interface with ovulation, release of egg from the ovary. So this is another method preventing from the pregnancies. The next one is intrauterine devices, that is IUDs. The intrauterine devices are contraceptive device inserted into the uterus. There are two symptomatic devices commonly used in India is a Lipsy loop and copper T. I gave you the picture is a copper T. It's made up of copper and plastic, which is non-irritant. This can remain for the periods of 3 years. After this you have to change it. This reduces the sperm fertilizing capacity and prevents implantation. This also helps to give the adequate time interval between the pregnancies. The next one is surgical method. The surgical contraception or sterilization techniques are terminal methods to prevent any pregnancy. This produces in male and is also for the female. These are the methods of permanent birth control. It is not a temporary. Next, urinary tract infection. We are hiding everything, no? So if an infection takes place in the urinary tract, suddenly you should visit the doctor and you have to discuss with your elders or parents. Many disease affects both women and men, but few disease occurs a high frequency in women, that is this urinary tract infection. Women are susceptible to the urinary tract infection by the bacteria that are present on the skin, rectum or vagina. This will enter to the urethra. Before moving upward, the types of urinary tract infection is bladder infection, that is cystitis. The bacteria locked into the urinary bladder thrive and multiply, leading to inflammation. It is the most common in the age of 20 to 50. The second one is kidney infection. Bacteria can travel through the urinary bladder upward to the urethra and affect one or both the kidneys. It also infects a bloodstream and leads to serious life-threatening complications also. This third one is asymptomatic bacteria. This bacteria present in urinary bladder which may not show any symptoms at all. So these three are the urinary tract infection. It's mainly occur for the women, especially for the women. So you should take care of your urinary tract infection. If anything has happened, suddenly inform to your elder or your parents. Personal hygiene. All should follow the personal hygiene. In this pandemic situation like COVID, all are following the personal hygienic, isn't it? So hygiene is a practice of healthy life and personal cleanliness is very, very important. So main aspect of the hygiene are the body hygiene, food hygiene, sanitary hygiene and hygienic environment. First, body hygiene. Washing is a vital in all groups. So nowadays we are always washing our hands with the soap because of the COVID. Not only with the COVID, every day, every time when you go out or you come from the school, colleges or office also, you should wash your hands. Daily bath will keep your skin clean and free from the germs. Hair should be cleaned by frequent washing. Mouthwash should be done after every meal. You should wash your hands many times during the day. And cloth, towel used in a dry, our hands or body should be dried after each use and laundered regularly. Cloths like handkerchief, undergarments, socks should be washed daily. Because of a infection or skin irritation, you can prevent from these while you are washing these type of clothes. The next one is toilet hygiene. Toilet which has a lot of germs and which can create more disease in it, isn't it? So you should take more effort into cleaning the toilets. Parents should guide the practice their children how to use a toilet at home, school and other public places also. So floor at the toilet should be maintained clean, dry. Please helps to reduce a bad odor and also infections. Flush the toilet handle, doorknobs, paper towel dispensers, light switches, walls should be cleaned with the disinfectants to kill the harmful germs and bacteria. Hands should be washed thoroughly with the soap before and after using the toilets. Menstrual and napkin hygiene. Women health depends on the level of cleanliness to keep them free from the skin. Menstrual hygiene. It is a very, very important to the genitourinary tract infection. So women should take more effort in the menstrual and napkin hygiene. So menstrual hygiene is a very important hygienic for the girls as well as women. It is important for the overall health of the woman. The basic hygiene ways I am going to explain now. The first one is sanitary pads. It should be cleaned regularly to avoid the infection or you have to change it regularly due to the microbes from the vagina and sweats from the genitals. Use warm water to clean the genitals. Helps to get rid of menstrual cramps. Wearing the loose cloth. Nowadays girls wearing a very tight cloth. In that time, menstrual time at least, wear the loose cloth rather than the tight fitting cloth while ensures the air flow around the genitals and prevents sweating. So every year May 28th is observed as a menstrual hygiene day to make the girls and the women aware of maintaining the menstrual hygiene. The importance of the menstrual hygiene for the good health by the way of awareness through films, discussions and many campaigns of the menstrual hygiene has taken a quite center stage in the recent days. Napkin hygiene. Parents and the teachers should say this. For every girls we used to say in the school, use a napkin and dispose it properly. So every girl should follow these necessary steps. Sanitary pad and tampons should be wrapped properly, discarded because it should not spread any diseases. Okay. Then this sanitary pad should not flush in the toilets. Of many girls are doing this, you should not flush out in the toilets. The napkin inserators can be used properly for the disposable of the napkins. The menstrual hygiene scheme to provide the suspected sanitary napkins are launched in the Health Ministry of 2011. In Tamil Nadu, that is UNICEF is developed an affordable that uses a firewood to handle the sanitary napkins waste at schools. And special wells are equipped where sanitary napkins are composed. From this, our lesson gets over reproduction in plants and reproduction in animals. It is a more informative lesson how we should be reproductive in plants takes place and reproductive in animals takes place, as well as personal hygiene is very important. We all go through this lesson. I hope you can understand this lesson. Thank you, children.